Yeah, that's fine. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank you all for taking the time to tune in to this webinar. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael Mathis, and I'm the Assistant Planning Director here at the town of Highlands. Also with us tonight is the firm Stewart, who is going to be helping the town here in the next year develop our first ever comprehensive plan. This plan is important as it's going to guide the future development of the town of Highlands for years to come. And I encourage anyone with questions, as Jake had just said, as he just mentioned, anyone with questions or concerns to utilize the chat window, and we will try our best to answer in real time. And at this moment, I'm going to pass it off to Jake with Stewart, and he's going to fill you in on why you're here.
Okay, great. Thanks, Michael. My name is Jake Petrosky with Stewart, a consulting firm that's helping the town out with the plan. I also have with me Allison Evans, who's a planner here at Stewart. And then we also have Seeley Chipley, who will be helping out with the plan as well, with Chipley Consulting. So we'll go ahead and get started. And we have a presentation, but we do have some questions along the way and some ways to kind of interact with you all. The presentation is going to have an introduction to the plan. We're going to talk about the schedule and the process itself, and then we're going to have talk about some background and some analysis, and then some discussion. The way to interact with us is through the chat. So we will, if you ask a question, we'll answer it and talk about it, so everybody else knows what you're asking. So as far as the introductions go, Michael Mathis is the Assistant Planning Director. Feel free to reach out to him if you have questions about the plan or the process, or want to provide some feedback. Or Josh Ward, who's the town manager, who's also helping to oversee this process. The consultant team, myself, Jake Petrosky, Chad Sari, my boss, Allison, and Jaquacia, and Stephen will also be helping out with this, and you'll see us off and on over the next year or so while we help you all put together this plan for the town. In addition, we have some sub-consultants, JMT Engineering, Kenny and Anna, Seeley from Chipley Consulting.
Hey,
and also,
Jake, somebody did just message me and said that they can't hear you very well.
okay, we'll speak up. I might be able to turn up the volume a little bit here. There you go. I turned up the volume. So yeah, that's the team that's going to be working on this, along with town staff, the planning department, but also other departments as well. The purpose of this community plan is really to function as the town plan, to promote the public health, safety, and welfare of citizens in the town of Highlands, guide and manage growth and change, and strengthen the community, protect property values and investments, and improve the quality of life for residents and also businesses, visitors, that sort of thing. Comprehensive plans are a tool that is traditionally used by local governments to help guide the future of the town. The principal tool for community planning, it's required by North Carolina state law to have a comprehensive plan if you have zoning. So it is a requirement. They should be collaborative. It's really meant to be a conversation, a community conversation, where we talk about what's going well, what we want to continue to do as a town, what we want to do better, what are issues that are coming up that we want to address. We think in terms of 10 or 20 years out, but we obviously think about what are more short-term actions and policies or standards that can, or programs or projects that can happen to move us towards our overall goals too. And it's really meant to examine a lot of different issues. So land use, yes, growth and development, yes, but also transportation, utilities, recreation, historic preservation, Downtown Highlands will be a focus of this as well. Comprehensive plans are not regulations, they are policy documents. They don't necessarily change zoning or ordinances or laws, but they can help inform regulatory changes. So we might make some recommendations in this plan that the town look at some of those ordinances or zoning regulations to make some adjustments to be more in line with overall vision and goals in the plan.
Comprehensive plans are, as the name indicates, comprehensive, looking at how the whole system in your town is interconnected, how land use affects housing and economic development, and your parks and open space affect your environmental goals, and your infrastructure affects your housing. So that kind of web is shown here. Different towns will have different emphases on the elements that are prioritized for them. No two comprehensive plans are the same, but it will cover a variety of topics, some to different degrees than others. So we will be building on the 2005 land use plan that Highlands has. That one had a vision statement that they envision an attractive mountain community, which is founded on the beauty of the plateau's natural environment, the uniqueness of Highlands Village character, and the richness of the area's culture and history. It had goals and strategies and objectives that a lot are still applicable now. Some will need to be updated. For example, in the residential areas, it wanted to promote a small town neighborhood atmosphere. In the commercial areas, probably mostly downtown, it wanted to promote village character by enhancing building appearance and pedestrian access. It wanted to protect the natural environment, protect and enhance it. And as far as the cultural and historic resources in Highlands, it wanted to preserve and promote cultural and historic resources. It also had some drier goals affecting how the government in Highlands works that may not be as relevant today as they were in 2005. The schedule for this project, so we actually started on our end getting everything together in late summer. We've been to Highlands a couple times to check out what's going on and talk with Michael and Josh and residents. You might have seen us a couple weeks ago lurking around town taking photos. So we'll continue in this analysis and visioning phase until the winter. Then we take back everything that we've seen, everything that we've heard, the survey results that close in December, anything you say here, what we have heard from stakeholders, put it all in our machine. And we're going to talk and come up with a draft plan that will probably be out sometime in spring 2021 that will have recommendations, visions, goals, objectives, land use, everything that the previous plan had and more. And we're aiming for a summer 2021 adoption. There are a lot of public engagement opportunities along the way. Thank you for coming to this one. We have a steering committee of local representatives who will meet 5 to 6 times throughout the process. We did some stakeholder interviews with various different interest groups around the town, economic development, realtors, different opportunities there. We did our public meeting in person as far as COVID would allow in October. And then we have this ongoing community survey, which we really want everyone to get out and participate in. That's the link right there. And that QR code will get you there as well. We're going to put this in the chat box for you a little later on. In phase 2, once we have a draft set of objectives and recommendations, we will be presenting those to the public so we can get feedback and refine those a little more. And then phase 3, when we get into the adoption part of the process, we'll be having a public hearing. So even though we said we're taking everything into the machine and analyzing it, there's still touch points along the way to make sure that we are meeting the goals that the public is interested in. We also have a community plan website. This is kind of everyone's resource that we will be updating frequently throughout the plan to get you the latest of what's going on, what your next opportunity is to participate in it. It will also help you access the survey and the mapping activity we're going to do a little later So we hope we've answered all your questions about the plan process right now. If you have any others, just go ahead and put them in the chat box, and we will be able to answer those for everyone.
So some of the things that we're doing is looking at kind of trends in town, doing a lot of mapping and analysis, working with town staff and county staff, and we're going to be working with DOT and natural resource agencies and a number of things just to understand some of the issues that are ongoing on the plateau and in Highlands itself. This is kind of a look at the town limits. We're looking a little bit outside of the town limits as well, just to understand what's happening in Macon County, just over the town boundaries as well. So looking at population, you all have grown in population, although this is not necessarily the whole story, as this is just year-round population. Year-round population is growing, but seasonal population is also growing, and Celia will talk a little bit about that.
Yes, so as of 2018, there were a total of just over 2,000 housing units within the town limits. And within those, 646 are considered permanent residences. So creating the population of around 1,000 folks who live in Highlands. And then vacant housing units are the total number of housing units that aren't permanently lived in, essentially. But of that, just under 100 less. So 1,473 units are used for seasonal recreation purposes, include short-term rentals, anything that's less than 2 months of a stay. And so essentially you really only have less than 100 total actual vacant units. So it's sort of an interesting story that we don't see in a lot of communities that aren't so heavily tourism based. So essentially 29% of your housing is occupied year round, and the rest is for seasonal visitors. Okay. As far as seasonal population, we estimated that the town is approximately 3 to 4 times that of the year-round population. So we're looking at 3,000 to 4,000 folks coming at any given point in the high peak time of the year. And then the chamber estimates that the seasonal population of the plateau, a little bit of a larger area, rises to 18,000 folks in the peak season. So lots of folks coming in and out. Housing by type, this is just most of the housing in Highlands is single family homes historically, and I guess through the planning process, we'll talk about, get folks' feedback about whether they want to see a little bit more density in the town, but right now it is 85% of single family homes. So the next slide. Median home value in 2017 was $507,000, and it has jumped up. Those are the most recent estimates from the census, but as of 2020, Realtor.com estimates the median listing price is almost $550,000. Median sold home price is $665,000, and you have just experienced explosive growth in home values. So since 2000, seen a 77% increase from that number in 2017, and that was pre-pandemic levels. So since the pandemic began in March of this year, the median days on the market is down. So houses are going really quickly, and sale price is up from 11% from last year. And this is something that we've heard a lot from the focus groups and steering committee meeting that we had, and the first public meeting that we're going to be diving into more through this process. right now there are 417 active Airbnb rentals within the town limits. Excuse me, Airbnb and VRBO, and that's more than doubled over the last 3 years. And so folks are making good money renting out their homes. Occupancy rate average throughout the year is just over 50%, but in April it's at 90%. And so I expect those other visitor season months, it's much higher than that 50%. And so almost a fifth of your housing is currently utilized for these short-term rental purposes that are specifically booking online. And I'm not going to dive too deeply into this, but we as planners like to do some data analysis. And so when you look at Highlands retail market, it's very heavily tourist-based, and local shops, pretty much all of them that draw folks in from outside the area are really dependent on tourists for their revenue. And those include clothing shops, food and beverage stores, restaurants, bars, places like that.
Yeah, one of the things that's neat about Highlands is it's also just a regional center. So even yes, there's tourism and there's visitors that come in, but it's also a center for the plateau. So a lot of folks in Cashers or surrounding country clubs, they come buy their groceries in Highlands. They come out to eat in Highlands and stuff like that. So that's baked in to those surplus numbers. It's not just the folks in Highlands that are patrons to the local businesses. It's everybody outside on the edges of Highlands and on the plateau, but then it's also these visitors that come in. So that kind of tells that story. Yeah,
that's a good point, Jake. I think there are a lot of local Macon County folks that come over for dinner and stuff. Probably Jackson County folks as well. And so that you are definitely a regional draw for shopping and restaurants. So as far as job types go, your total number of jobs within town limits have increased since 2010, but the proportion of the largest job types are very similar to what they were. Those two categories are accommodation and food services and retail trade. And so essentially, a lot of your workforce drives in from other places. And if you think about it, some of these industries are a little bit lower paying, and so maybe they live elsewhere to come in to work because they can't afford to live there as well. We even heard during our some of our focus group interviews that mid-level managers, so making pretty good money, were driving in from other places because there just weren't a lot of long-term rentals available and things like that. So there are, I think, just one more point there. I think during the pandemic, you've seen more folks coming into Highlands, probably that are coming in to either live permanently or still have their second homes in Highlands, but are also able to work from home now and will be able to for the foreseeable future. So we expect that we'll see more work from home folks as well in Highlands. I'm gonna pass it back to Jake now.
So, looking at the town limits, we're going to be looking at the town limits. We're also looking at some of those edges of town as well. So on this map shows the town limits in black, and then also shows a study area boundary in red. So you can see how it goes out to Highlands Cashers Hospital, and includes some of Highlands Falls Country Club. And we're just looking at some of those areas that are on the edges of town. The town of Highlands does not have an extraterritorial zoning jurisdiction currently, which is the ETJ, which is an area outside of town where they also have planning and zoning jurisdiction. But it is important for us to kind of look outside of the town boundaries, because it could be that an area in Macon County that growth will occur will affect the town. and it's also important to anticipate what could be voluntary annexations. The towns in North Carolina cannot involuntary annex anyone. You know, just if the town wants to annex, they can't annex somebody. It has to be voluntary annexation. So a property owner needs to come petition for annexation from the town in order to get town services like water and sewer or something like that. So that's how those town limits would change if they change. But another thing that we're looking at outside of town is just everything that makes Highlands so unique. So a lot of natural resources. You're surrounded by public land in Nantahala National Forest. Actually 40,000 acres of public conservation land, mostly national forests, but also a lot of land trust properties within 5 miles of town. 36 ecologically significant natural areas within that 5 mile ring of town, and 107 miles of trout waters within 5 miles. So there's a lot of natural resources within a short distance, and that's what makes living in Highlands great. There's a lot of trails in the national forest outside of town, but you also have a great asset in the Highlands Plateau Greenway. You have a couple miles of existing trails. Some of those are on roads or on sidewalks, but some are also off-road trails, like the trail that goes down to Mill Creek and these are really a great asset because you can get away even in town. And it's something that we want to build on and see, you know, how do you extend the Greenway or make key connections or be able to use it for more purposes. You also have a number of parks and recreation facilities in town, and you've really been blessed with a lot of great facilities, some through town-led initiatives, some through public-private partnerships, some through benefactors. The Kelsey Hutchinson Founders Park is a great asset for downtown. It offers really a public gathering space and is programmed in different ways, concerts and ice skating and tree lighting and that sort of thing. And it really functions as kind of like a town green. The town also has a number of other parks, the Highlands Recreation Park, and that includes the pool and community building, or recreation center rather. You also have the community building and baseball field. You got the dog park, you got the Greenway, and then the Highlands Recreation Field, which is up on Buck Creek Road, and that's county owned, but it's jointly maintained. So you got a lot of conservation areas and national forest and hiking and outdoor recreation opportunities, but then you also have a lot of local recreation opportunities, which is great and something that we can build on. We kind of want to know, what you think is kind of your needs are met. What else would you like in and around town? What connections to parks would make you use them more? Do you see any kind of barriers or any key needs? Those are some things that we want to know about. Some things that we've heard so far in our stakeholder interviews and also the public meeting is environmental preservation is really important to folks. Understanding that you all live in a very unique place, and everything drains to the lake where we get your water. So most all of the Highlands is in a key watershed for your water supply. So that's important. But also everything flows downhill, right? So you have the Calisaja, which is a scenic river, and we want to be conscious of what we're doing downstream as well. Housing for workers and families and new residents is something that was brought up. Downtown safety. There's some at times of the year where you have a lot of folks in and around downtown. Some of the sidewalks, although they are decent size, sometimes they're not big enough. Some intersections have some issues. the desire to maintain a sense of community and maintain the character of Highlands, even as things grow and change, but we want to maintain that sense of community and that sense of character in Highlands. Just careful development, just thoughtful development. That's really why Highlands is the way it is because over the last 10, 20, 30 years, there's been a lot of conscious effort put into making sure new development fits where it's going, and taking care of existing structures and upfitting them and revitalizing them and that sort of thing. And sidewalk and greenway connectivity is also mentioned. Downtown is something that we'll talk about in the plan a fair amount. Looking at downtown, there's some issues that have come up, sidewalk and cycling connections. So these couple main intersections, Main Street and 4th, Main and 3rd, some safety concerns. Somebody mentioned that there's not really any bike racks downtown. That's another issue that could maybe help out with the parking issue. If you have some bike racks, people could bike and not have to take up a parking space. But parking is an issue during certain times of the year, especially. The downtown development character, you have a lot of one-story buildings downtown, and the price of real estate downtown is really high. So there's going to be pressure to build multiple stories and that sort of thing. And we want to make sure that the character of town is maintained. So that's how the buildings are designed, how big they are, and where different types of uses go. That'll be part of some recommendations in the plan. Housing is something that housing market is really is really on fire up there over the past year. There's been a significant increase even year over year in the number of houses sold and the price of housing. And the short-term rentals are part of that. There's some concern of having too many short-term rentals in some neighborhoods and losing that character. So we'll have to talk about that during this process. And then branding and just reinforcing kind of what makes Highlands special. So a couple things that we want to ask your help with is taking the survey and also telling your friends and neighbors about it. There's a direct link to the survey that we'll put in the chat. It's also available through the project website. But in the survey, we ask some questions about background info, your vision and big ideas for the town, recreation priorities, how do you feel about housing, short-term rentals, downtown priorities, what are your priorities for downtown, what are your priorities for transportation, that sort of thing. So Allison will put those in the chat box, but feel free to definitely take the survey and tell your friends about it. Michael also has some paper copies of the survey in case you would rather take a paper copy or know somebody that would rather have a paper copy. We're also producing a Spanish version of the survey in case that's needed. Another thing that we have available for you all is an interactive map. So we can put this link in the chat box, but it's also available on the Get Involved page. And this is where you can tell us just some different things about different areas of town or things you're concerned about. We call it the Keep, Toss, Create map. So you can tell us what to keep, what we really want to preserve versus what we want to change or toss, and then what we want to create in different areas of town. And that's really helpful for us because then we get a sense of what different priorities are for different neighborhoods, or you can tell us, an intersection you got an issue with, or if there's a cycling issue somewhere, if it's frightening to cycle somewhere, you can tell us that, or a dangerous intersection, or that sort of thing. So feel free to put that in the chat, but you can also put it on the map as well.